Tariffs on cigars and the CAFTA-DR agreement. Let's talk about it. It's been a while since we've revisited this topic and a lot has changed. But before we get into what's happening now, we need to go way back to the beginning. During his campaign, President Trump talked about using tariffs to replace income taxes. He referenced the 1890s, a time when Americans didn't pay individual income tax. And most taxes came from companies just like ours. Then came Liberation Day. Felt like a shock to the system. April 2nd, 2025, an 18% reciprocal tariff on Nicaragua would be applied. Not on the sales within the United States, but on the landed invoice from the manufacturer or importer. In other words, not a domestic sales tax, but still a domestically paid one. Now, a big source of confusion, how these invoices land and the business processes each importer chooses to utilize. Everyone has a different system. What's legal, what's convenient, what's sustainable, don't always align. The number of changes we've seen to the application of tariffs has been absolutely immense. And this further complicates legal strategies around defending the CAFTA-DR treaty, which is currently still in place. The president has invoked the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, also known as the IEEPA, via Executive Order 14257. Where do they come up with these numbers? Citing drug trafficking as an emergency intervention. That claim applies to all tariffed countries. Then to further complicate things, on April 8th, a bright line update was released. It confirmed that Chapter 98 would still be active, such as the Administrative Procedure Act, or APA, of 1946. Yeah, we're going way back in time here, folks, would allow for challenges. And that would mean the US mechanism for honoring the CAFTA agreement was still in place, or would still be in place. This was huge. We immediately sent a test shipment under CAFTA and it cleared. Our assumption at this point was that the administration would likely exempt the FTA, or free trade agreements, from the reciprocal tariffs. But that raised one big question. If we're the only ones benefiting from this and others have the same licensing, are we misinterpreting something? We reached out to CBP's Center of Excellence and got a correction. Moving forward, our shipments would need to abide by the new tariffs. Meanwhile, the United States Office of Budget wasn't even accounting for these tariffs in their national budget projections. This was reported by The Hill, a mainstream news outlet, if you still read those. From our perspective, CBP and importers weren't given clear guidance on how to apply the same tariff code with different treaty treatments. CAFTA has been providing zero tariffs on cigars since about 2015. So where does that leave us? Well, we're now being tariffed, just like everybody else. We tried one more time to import under CAFTA with zero tariff and it was rejected. May 28th, 2025, the United States International Trade Courts ruled that key tariffs imposed by the administration were unlawful by IEEPA and exceeded the president's statutory authority. August 29th, 2025, the Federal Circuit Court of Appeals affirmed the CIT's decision, that's the trade court. The case, which is VOS Selections Inc. v. Trump, along with Learning Resources v. Trump, has now been accepted by the Supreme Court of the United States for expedited review. Quick note on how exceptional this is, because the expedited review was not even meant to be announced until October 6th, so they're moving very fast on this one. There are multiple legal challenges that we have been tracking. Currently, all of those cases have been issued a stay or transferred to the CIT, that's the trade court, again, until the Supreme Court has ruled. The White House is understandably in panic over this and have begun to modify key areas of the executive order. A lot of people in the cigar community are upset, understandably so. And yes, we're now part of that group of people who are a little bit upset because once again, we're being punished. Apollo chief economist, a global asset management company, has stated, at the current income tax rates, collection rates on tariffs might need to hit 200%. The United States government seems to have a spending problem. I bet that's not news to very many people watching this. It should be noted that these tariffs are paid by companies within the United States. We can't pay these from Nicaragua. For us, in the United States, this has forced a hiring freeze, unfortunately, and slowed down the progression of our company. Now, let me be very clear. I'm not your advisor. I'm not your counsel. What I'm sharing here is based on our own experiences and the professional network that we rely on. We've had some inappropriate questions of myself and members of our team in regards to this topic. We've got accountants and attorneys in both Nicaragua and the United States, nearly a dozen of them, and we're still a small company today. That alone should tell you how complicated the United States has become to do business with. We have our own opinions. We have options that we are looking at in regard to this topic as we are directly affected and we started our business under the CAFTA-DR treaty. The United States, in our opinion, has violated the agreement that they signed. That opens pathways that we are actively exploring. Here are a few things to consider, although we're not going to be elaborating on what our next move might be should the Supreme Court make a decision that's not favorable. First, in our understanding, tariffs that are collected can be refunded for up to a rolling year. Second, there are courts that specialize exclusively in this type of trade litigation. Even if the Supreme Court challenge fails, we still have a challenge over the free trade agreement itself. Third, legal challenges are likely to be extremely expensive, not just because it's about cigars, but because it targets the way that the United States asserts tariffs over free trade zones. CAFTA has a security exception criteria that has not been challenged yet. Now, the big question I've been hearing is, are we raising prices on cigars due to tariffs? The short answer, no. The one area I was overly optimistic on this issue would have been the exception carved out for free trade agreements, and that did not happen. I really had a lot of hope that the administration would do that. If you need some optimism on this issue, the International Trade Council has already started calling CAFTA treaties exempt in some of their talks that they've been giving. You can speak with their trade commissioners about this issue, and import attorneys are still recommending importing under the agreement and paying the tariff at the same time. A personal story, whenever I started Domain Cigars along with my co-founder Esteban Disla, I read every piece of cigar media posted from 2015 on about the FDA deeming rule. That was the FDA coming in and basically destroying the industry. And what I found was that 90% of cigar media were wrong in their editorialization of this issue. We studied 100 cigar companies and found they raised prices from 5 to 10% on the wholesale cost over that 5-year period. Meanwhile, the actual regulation cost about 5 cents per cigar. In conclusion, tariffs on cigars are here. We are waiting for the Supreme Court, who has accepted the case for expedited ruling, which could land even before next year. The court announced it would hear the case nearly a month early. And finally, if you disagree with what we're saying, just remember there's always popcorn. Like, share, subscribe, stay informed, stay lit, smoke Domain cigars, and make sure you increase your popcorn budget.